everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Kathryn Juliano, and I am a member of the AZAC Safety Committee. I'm going to be talking today about the hierarchy of safety controls. So a little bit about myself. As I said, my name is Kathryn Juliano. I work right now at the Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington, D.C. I work primarily with large, dangerous carnivores, lions, tigers, Andean bears, etc. And I'm also the vice chair of the AZAC, American Association of Zookeepers Safety Committee. So I'm thrilled to be here today, especially on behalf of the AZAC Safety Committee. So why talk about safety? I feel like safety sometimes can be kind of a dull topic, but often one of the most important. And we're always on the same page, right? Because we always want to reduce injuries and even potential deaths in zoos and aquariums, especially when we're talking about dangerous animals like lions or tigers or elephants or bears. There's some data here from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the AZA, and they found between 2006 and 2016 in zoos, 25 people died because of dangerous animals. So anything we can do to get that number down across the world is extremely important. So one tool that we can use when we're talking about reducing the risk of a really, really dangerous accident or just reducing the risk of an accident in general is called the hierarchy of controls. And this was created by NIOSH, it's very familiar to us in the United States. OSHA is very familiar, but it's basically a federally created workplace safety organization here in the United States. And this tool is not made and designed for zoos and aquariums. It is used in construction and aviation and hospitals and a bunch of different fields. But it's basically a tool that you can use to assess and reduce risk specifically to your employees. So we'll go through each of these different levels, but basically whenever you're using this tool, you're always going to start at the top of the pyramid where it's blue, and you're going to work towards the bottom of the pyramid. So you try to take the very top choice, and then you move to the second, the third, and so on and so forth. And these are different ways to approach a hazard and find different solutions. So as we go through how to use this tool, we're going to use one example the whole time. This example may or may not be inspired by real life. But our example here is of a gorilla. So we have a bunch of gorillas kept in multiple enclosures inside. And for one of these enclosures, there's a door handle that the keepers need to access that's very, very close to the mesh fence. And one of the female gorillas has a habit of stabbing or attacking the keepers with a piece of bamboo when they approach. Obviously a dangerous situation. Gorillas are very, very strong, but the keepers feel that they still need to approach this door handle. So what are different things we could do to reduce the danger and the potential injury from this situation? So if we're following the hierarchy of safety controls, the very first step at the top is elimination. And elimination means remove the threat entirely. So if we're thinking very broadly about dangerous animals, that would be to stop keeping dangerous animals in zoos at all, ever. Obviously, that's not really a feasible option. A lot of us have pretty essential missions and goals from our zoo that our dangerous animals help us accomplish. So we're not going to get rid of lions and gorillas and tigers. So another example that's similar is to stop going entirely in the same space as dangerous animals. Maybe move, like in this picture, to protected contact instead. That has a lot of pros and cons that we won't get into. But there's different ways that you could think about eliminating the situation entirely. And here, our example would be stop giving the gorillas bamboo. Just stop giving them bamboo altogether, then they wouldn't have, anything they could potentially use as a weapon. You could also stop using the enclosure near that handle, or you could stop using that handle entirely. It may not be perfect, and we'll talk about how to really, go through these different solutions in a zoo setting with live animals. But this would obviously stop the danger from occurring at all. So the second step that we could follow here is called substitutions. That would be replacing the hazard. So we could, theoretically, if we're talking again on a larger scheme, we could use an alternate species that's less dangerous. So instead of gorillas, maybe we still want to have primates to reach those various goals that I mentioned, education and research, conservation breeding. So maybe instead we get siaminks, or something that would have trouble using bamboo as a weapon. And again, this goes back to the whole idea that we have various goals that we want to accomplish. You can't remove all of your dangerous animals. And at the base of it, every animal has the capacity to be dangerous, right? Even a porcupine could really hurt somebody if you didn't know what you're doing, or if the situation was just, in that kind of a way. So again, often pretty impractical because we're not going to find a species that's not dangerous in any way. Sometimes you could say that switching from free contact to protected contact, again, is a way. Sometimes it can be viewed as substitution. Again, that's very complicated, but in this example, in this photo, there's still a chance for some sort of harm, but it could potentially be safer than if they were in directly with that elephant. So in our example, what are we going to do? Give the gorillas a different food or a different browse. Maybe in this situation, it could be instead of long pieces of bamboo, we're going to cut the bamboo into smaller pieces. Or maybe we give them a woody browse that's much more flexible, and so it can't be used, as a hard, pointy object. So step 3, engineering controls. So elimination and substitution are often not really viable options for zoos and aquariums and for animal keepers. But engineering controls are absolutely possible. A lot of us are probably using them now, even if you don't know the name for them. And they're certainly, I think, becoming popular. So an engineering control is something that would isolate people from the hazard. It's a physical design that eliminates human error. So if you work in a zoo that has multiple different lock or key systems or door systems, they would fall under this category. So I'll give some examples. 2 lock, 2 key is becoming really big in the United States. Lockout, tagout is also a thing that some people do. So 2 lock, 2 key, this is just a very quick summary. But 2 lock, 2 key is the idea that if you have a door that allows you to go in with a dangerous animal, instead of one person having a key that opens that door completely, you have 2 people and you have 2 different locks and you have 2 different keys. So if I wanted to open a door to clean that could potentially hold a dangerous animal, I would need a coworker to come with me. I'm physically unable to open the door by myself. Physically unable. So that's an engineering control. Lockout, tagout is a similar thing. I know I use these at my zoo. If we have a yard and we need to go out into the outside yard, instead of multiple different, 2 lock, 2 key, everybody has an assigned key, we will just go, in this photo, you would grab a colored lock and then you grab the matching colored key. And once you put that on, it is physically impossible for my coworker to take that lock off. I have the only key. So it's impossible for them to put an animal into that yard if I am in that yard, if we've done everything correctly. So that's part of the thing with engineering controls, substitution and elimination. There's no chance that that risk still exists. Engineering controls, there is a margin for human error, but if they're set up absolutely correctly right, it should be physically impossible for somebody to make a crucial mistake. So how would this apply in our example? We don't need fancy lock or key systems in our example. We would just block the mesh with a board, or maybe we would use mesh that had smaller openings in it. So again, there's still a possibility maybe one day the board would crack or it would get really wet and it would fall apart, and then the gorilla could, sneak attack and get in there. But in general, you're safe. You're protected from the risk of something happening. Administrative controls. This one might be my favorite because we are all doing them. We are all doing them. I guarantee if you work with animals in a zoo or aquarium, you are doing these. So they're going to be really familiar to you. They are the bread and butter of zookeeping. Administrative controls are designed to change the way people work. So there's no physical limit, but it makes you stop and think and be careful with what you're doing. So we're talking about your policies, your protocols, your SOPs, which are standard operating procedures or protocols. Things that are basically rules that make you stop what you're doing and do things a different way. Administrative controls can also be ways to increase awareness. We'll get into that. There is always room for human error, way more than there is with any of our previous steps, but it should make you change what you're doing and to be, safer. So here are some administrative controls in terms of policies and protocols. If you've ever done a 2-person lock check protocol, where you have to check the locks and then your coworker must also confirm that they are locked, that is an administrative control. That's something that you do to make sure that you're stopping, Somebody else is coming to help you, and you're ensuring that the area is safe. If you've ever counted all of the animals in a yard before going in, or counted all of the animals inside before going out, that again is an administrative control. And then when we're talking about different ways to increase awareness, there's a huge way, huge number of different solutions that you can do for that. Mirrors, tags, markings. So both of these pictures here are both administrative controls that are used to increase awareness. The one on the top there shows if a door is open or closed. If the handle is by a red sign, like on the left, the door is open. If the handle is up by the green sign, like on the right, the door is closed. It's safe to enter. So just a way for anybody to come at a quick glance and know where it's safe or where an animal could be. And then on the bottom there, we see a little map with different signs of where different animals are. So again, a way to increase awareness. Somebody can come in and kind of have an idea of what's going on at any point in time. So what would an administrative control be in our example? It could be something as simple as having a second person present, and they either watch the gorilla and warn the person if they're approaching, or they distract the gorilla. They feed them at that time so that the other person can safely move the door. And again, we've got some more examples of administrative controls. These are all designed to increase awareness. So in the top right there, we've got stripes of tape. So you can see on the right in that photo, bright red tape makes it very, very clear that that door is open. When the door is closed, you can't see the red tape. So it should just, increase your awareness of whether the door is open or not. And these bottom two with the tiger, they're the same facility. So on the left, you can see that the white door kind of blends in with the white wall. So on the other picture there, the white door really stands out because it has the wall painted a different color. So just a good way for them to be able to easily tell where the door is really, really quickly. Step 5 is PPE, personal protective equipment. Most of us are familiar with PPE because we're all wearing masks, right? But us in zoos, we've been using PPE for a long time. So PPE is designed to protect the worker. It is your last resort. And it's often not a viable option with dangerous animals, sometimes with animals in general. If somebody gave me any amount of PPE and told me to go in an enclosure with a lion or a bear or a tiger or honestly even an elephant, I think I would say no. I would not feel safe. But we've all used these in different situations. I know I've certainly used leather catch gloves when I've had to handle a bobcat. In some cases, you might just be wearing long pants, long sleeves. I know I use bear spray. I carry bear spray with me at work, as it really is for that last final step of protection. But again, it's often not a really viable option for us in zoos. So in our example with our gorilla, if you were going to go with the PPE option, you would get some big safety goggles, you would get some thick gloves, I don't know, maybe you'd get like a padded vest, and you'd go out there and you'd take your best shot. Obviously, there's a pretty high chance that you could get pretty hurt, but hopefully your plastic goggles would help you out, would protect you. So when we're using the hierarchy of controls, we're working with living animals. It's not as simple maybe as it is if you're working around an airplane, right? We just have to use reasonable judgment and realize that complete safety is never possible. I wish it was. I don't think it's possible in life, but it's certainly not possible when you're working with animals. So we have to try to find that sweet spot. We don't want to just, go up to that gorilla with some thick gloves and say, I'm ready. We want to be a little more protected than that. But we also don't want to tie ourselves so much up with different safety protocols or procedures or ideas that we kind of miss the point. We bog ourselves down. We don't consider a realistic time frame or time that we have to do these things. I mean, if we wanted to choose the safest option, we wouldn't have gorillas in zoos. So we have to kind of shoot for the middle ground there. But you're not alone. There are so many safety people out there. There are so many people who have worked with other animals like you're working with who probably have faced a similar situation. Reach out, ask other people that you work with, ask other people in your zoo, reach out to other zoos, talk to the people that are out there and kind of try to, as my boss would say, noodle through or think through your situation and find a good solution. And really consider all of the options. I think in the zoo world, we would love to just, in any world, you'd love to just be like, okay, the first option is our choice. It's much more complicated than that. But if you start at the top and try working your way down, that's probably the best way to do it. So let's go back to our gorilla example. If we were going to use this tool, and like I said, which is what it's designed for, stop at the very, very first level, that would mean that we would stop using bamboo, or we would stop using that enclosure. That's going to be the easiest, safest method. Maybe that's what you do the very first day it's a problem. But long term, it might not be a solution for us. Your nutritionist may say, hey, bamboo is really important in their diet. We really can't cut it out long term. Let's talk about some other options. Or maybe you find that the gorillas are really limited when they don't have that enclosure. It's starting to kind of affect them socially. It's creating other problems. It's not going to be an answer for you. So we're working with live animals. It's very different. It's absolutely good to look through all of your options and then kind of see where you can get. So in this situation, substitution may be a great option for you. You may be able to go back to your nutritionist and say, well, if they need bamboo, what if we take it off, off the large stalks and we just pull off the leaves? Or could we maybe do a different kind of browse and get similar effects? Or if the issue is that you need to use that enclosure, maybe you do go with an engineering control. Maybe you block that mesh and then you just make sure that you're checking where you blocked it, make sure it's still intact and functioning. So absolutely, we're gonna use different solutions than the first one, and we're gonna have to talk with different people. And they are, again, live animals. Maybe you block that mesh with a board and you come in the next day and those gorillas have somehow undone all that work. Maybe then you go back up and you say, okay, we really need to use a different type of food, a different type of browse, because it's not gonna work. We're not able to block it. Your safety is so important, so important. I hope everybody that's listening to this presentation is interested in safety and realizes how important it is. I know sometimes we have to make kind of trade-off decisions where we have to choose what to talk about with our boss. Do I ask for this new food or do I ask for a new enrichment toy? And I hope you always consider safety at the top of that list, because nothing's going to get done if you're not healthy and safe and you're able to do your job for a really, really long time. But you can take, and you should take, a really active role in your own safety. Look around you, consider what you think is safe or unsafe, consider what you may feel uncomfortable with, and I hope you can always feel comfortable bringing up your concerns with supervisors or with safety officials at your own zoo. But I do think it helps when you bring up concerns to come with maybe a couple solutions, and hopefully this tool will give you the ability to be creative with those solutions and to come up with different ideas. But you always should have and need to have a level of personal responsibility. You're the only one that can really make things happen. We're talking about administrative controls, protocols, and policies. Your supervisors set and create those policies, but you're the ones that have to do it every day. So work with others around you and really put safety first, because we all want to be here, right? We all want to be here and we all want to be safe for a really long time. If anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me. My personal email is there, and then the AZAC Safety Committee email is there. AZAC Safety Committee, we also create a lot of resources, mainly offered to the United States, but if anybody has any interest in any of those resources, we have a variety of articles and actually some presentations. If you have any interest, please reach out, and thank you so much for your time.